Hello, and welcome back to Bible Notes. Today we will be taking another look at the parable of seeds, but we will be focusing more on the soil. So join me in rereading Matthew chapter 13, verses 1 through 9. Let's begin. Verse 1 begins, "Later that same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake." Verse 2. Then a large crowd began to gather around him, so he got into a boat. Then he sat there and taught them as the people stood on the shore. Verse 3. He told many stories in the form of a parable such as this one. Listen, a farmer went out to plant some seeds. Verse 4. Verse 4. As he scattered his seeds across his fields, some fell on a footpath, and the birds came and ate them. Verse 5. Other seeds fell on shallow soil with underlying rocks. The seeds sprouted quickly because the soil was shallow. Verse 6. The plants soon withered under the hot sun, and since they did not have deep roots, they died. Verse 7. Other seeds fell on thorns that grew up and choked out the tender plants. Verse 8. Still others fell on fertile soil that produced a crop that was 30, 60, and even 100 times as much as had been planted. Verse 9. Anyone with ears to hear must listen and understand. We all need to listen, not just hear the word, but listen deep down in our soul. Let's turn real quickly in our Bibles to the book of 1 Peter. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 23. For you have been born again, not to a life that will quickly end. Your new life will last forever, because it is from an eternal and living Word of God. Remember, the seeds that we are talking about is the Word of God. We mentioned that last time. But what is the soil? There are 4 different types of soil mentioned in this passage, and they are the 4 most common responses to the seeds or to the Word of God, the Gospel. The first one being the footpath. The same sun that melts wax can also harden clay. And usually that is what a footpath is made out of. It's like clay, hard, dirt. It's very tightly packed. So the seeds just lay on top. and the birds come to eat it. But what does that even mean? What does that represent? It is the people that hear the word, but they don't understand, and the birds eating the seed represents Satan or the devil, kind of distracting them quickly again and taking what little understanding they had away, so that they can't really understand and change. But it also can happen to Christians who are gospel hardened, and we need to be careful not to let that happen to us. Gospel hardened Christians are those Christians who have grown up in church all their lives and they think they've heard it all, and it no longer makes an impact on them. And they are just hard, set in their ways, and will not change. But we need to remain soft and open and pliable so that the gospel can really sink down into us and take root and grow. So that it cannot be taken away from us. Then there's the second type of soil. The shallow soil with rocks. Where I live, there's a lot of rocks in our soil, and we have to use special tools to get them out if we want to do anything outside. This kind of soil isn't good for planting. The plants will grow, but their roots are so short because there's not a lot there. So that same hot sun that baked the clay paths in the first soil withers the plants and kills them because their roots can't get down deep enough to find water. But what does this represent? What kind of Christian or person could this be? This is the person that they hear the gospel, they receive the seed, but they're not very steady on their feet, and they are very easily offended. And the pressure of the truth scares them off because they think that the pastor or whoever they heard the message from was talking about them, and they didn't like it. They didn't want to change. It just gets too real for them. And we cannot afford for anyone to be ashamed or offended by the gospel. Do not get offended by God's holy word, but let it take hold of you and help you grow. You can't live your life on emotion alone. Faith needs strong roots. And then there's the third type of soil that's mentioned, which is the thorny soil. The plants were able to grow, but they were crowded out by weeds and thorns, and so they quickly died off, choked out. What does this represent? These are the ones who hear the word, know the word, understand the word, but still live in the world and are very easily distracted by what the world offers them. And they're too focused on the shiny part of life, the fun part of life, and they don't really dive deep into the truth in what they really know. They want to shut it away, put it in a box, and just pull it out when it's convenient. And then finally we've got the fourth soil, the fertile, deep, healthy soil that produces the 30, 60, and even 100 times as many crops as was planted. What does this represent? Well, this represents the good, strong Christian who doesn't just hear the word with their ears, but they listen to it with their soul. And they grow and get stronger. And they try to spread their seed, their word, their love for God with as many people as they can to produce more and more for God's harvest. This needs to be you and me. This is what we need to strive for. And Jesus will never get mad if one plant only produces 30 times as much and the other plant produces 100 times. Because as long as there is a harvest, he is happy. And he loves the 30 just as much as the 100 equally. So do not be afraid if you don't see the results that you want, because we're not called for the harvest. We're called for planting the seeds, and someone else is called for the watering, and someone else is called for the harvest, and we might be called for a harvest that someone else planted. And that's okay. Because we just need to keep planting seeds and something will grow. God just wants us to produce the seeds that he has given us. So what kind of soil are you? Because I know that I want to be the good, fertile soil. Okay, that's it for this time. And I'll see you guys next time. But my next few videos might be a little bit different and a little bit more, I guess, clustered. Because I'm getting ready to go on a conference of sorts, and I hope to bring some content from it with me to share with all of you. So that's it for this time, and I'll see you guys next time. And remember, I love you, and I'm praying for you. God bless.